Hello everyone. Today we are going to be learning how to name molecular compounds. Let's quickly refresh ourselves on what a molecular compound is. So a molecular compound is just a compound composed of at least two nonmetals. So an example would be carbon dioxide, which is made of carbon and oxygen, both of which are nonmetals. And when we're naming these molecular compounds, we have a set of rules that we have to use. So the first rule states that we have to add a prefix to each element depending on how many we have. And I've included these prefixes up here. Feel free to copy them down. So looking at CO2, we see that we have two oxygens, so we indicate that by di. Now, there's one small exception, and that's with the fact that we only have one carbon atom. We don't write monocarbon. And the reason for that is that we don't write mono on the first element if there's only one. But let's say we had something like C3O2. This would be tricarbon dioxide. We can still add prefixes to the first element, but we just can't add the prefix mono to the first element. And that's going into rule 3. Rule 2 states that the last element must end in "ide." So here we have carbon and oxygen, but it's not carbon dioxygen, it's carbon dioxide, because we take away the last few letters from oxygen and we make it IDE. That's where we get carbon dioxide from. Number 3 we've already covered is that the prefix mono is not used on the first element, even if we have one of that element. The prefix mono is only used on the second element. And rule 4 is a very niche rule. You most likely won't have too much of an issue with your chemistry teacher if you break this rule. But essentially, certain vowels shouldn't be next to each other. Like you shouldn't have two A's next to each other like two O's. And what this looks like is here we have pentaoxide. This is wrong because A and O are next to each other. The proper way of writing this is pentoxide, dropping the A from the prefix. So typically if that occurs, you want to drop the vowel that comes in the prefix, and that'll fix the issue. And I should probably elaborate. The vowel combinations that are not allowed are AA, OO, and AO. Let's work through a few examples. So first of all, we have P3H5. The 3 tells me we're going to have tri at the start of our name. Then the chemical symbol for phosphorus is P, so I know this is triphosphorus. Next, we have H5. Now, the 5 stands for penta as our prefix, and then the H stands for hydrogen, but we don't write hydrogen, we write hydride. Triphosphorus pentahydride. Next, we have CO. Now, even though we have one C, we do not write monocarbon, we just write carbon. Mono does not apply to the first element. Next, we have one oxygen, and since it's the second element, we do write mono, and because oxygen is the second element, we have to end it with IDE. So it's carbon monoxide, not carbon monoxygen. Next, we have H2O. The 2 tells me it's going to be di. The H tells me this is hydrogen. Now we have one O, so we're going to put mono, and it's oxygen, so this is going to be oxide. Now, if you put dihydrogen monoxide on your exam or quiz, you would most likely get marks taken off because this is a compound we expect you to know. This is the chemical formula for water. Most chemistry teachers will expect that you know this, so if this ever comes up, just write water. This is a compound you're expected to know. Next, we have SO3. We notice that we only have one S, but we don't write monosulfur, we just write sulfur. Next, we have 3 O's, so this is going to be tri. And then since this is an O, that means oxygen, so we're going to write trioxide. Next, we have AS. AS is the chemical symbol for arsenic. The 3 tells me that we're going to have the prefix tri. And F is the chemical symbol for fluorine, so this is going to be trifluoride, making sure that we change the last few letters to IDE at the end of each name. Lastly, we're going to have BF3. The B stands for boron. And since we have 3 of F, we're going to write tri. And F stands for fluorine, but we have to end in IDE. So we get boron trifluoride. Alright, so now let's work backwards and try to figure out how to write a chemical compound based off its name. And so there are only 2 major rules here. The first rule is that you use the prefix to determine the number of each element. And the second rule is that the element ending in IDE is the last element. So let's say we had carbon dioxide. We know that since dioxide ends in IDE, we're going to have oxygen as our last element. And the di tells us we're going to have 2 oxygens. And since we have carbon here, we know carbon's chemical symbol is C. So we get the compound of carbon dioxide is CO2. Let's work through a few examples. So first of all, we have dichlorine monoxide. The di tells us we're going to have 2, and chlorine symbol is Cl, so we're going to write Cl2. Next we have monoxide, which tells us we have 1 oxygen, so this is going to be Cl2O. Next, we have iodine monochloride. Since there's no prefix in front of the iodine, we assume there's only 1. And since we have the prefix mono in front of the second element, chloride, we know there's only going to be 1 of those as well, 1 chlorine. Then we have arsenic trifluoride. Same deal as an iodine. There's no prefix in front of the arsenic, so there's going to be only 1 arsenic. And the trifluoride tells us we're going to have 3 fluorines. Remember, the IDE is the converted name of the element. So fluorine became fluoride, so now we're going to go fluoride to fluorine. Next up, we have silicon dioxide. So silicon symbol is Si. And now we know that we have 2 oxygens because oxide is oxygen and di is 2. Lastly, we have nitrogen monoxide. So we're going to have 1 nitrogen. And the prefix mono tells us we only have 1 of the next element, which is oxygen.